Hi everyone, we have another training case to go over. This one is on lookups, your ifs formulas like your sum ifs, count ifs, going over indirects and name ranges. If you have not already tried this case, please go down to the link that's in the description and try it out for yourself first before watching this. So we'll quickly go over the answers and methods. So for level one, we are working with a VLOOKUP to look up these values and the column index number based on the results by country. So you want to rate a VLOOKUP, and we're going to be looking up country name, and we're going to be looking it up here, and then this is the entire range where we may have data that we want to pull. Right? And we want to move over this many columns, 5 columns, starting at the leftmost. And then we always want to end it with false. And then we have a bonus question. We want the same thing, putting in our formula from above, but then we're going to replace the false with true. You can see we get a different result with true for a country that is not in our list, which is why you typically don't want to use true. There's very few cases where it is helpful to have that. Next up, we have the H lookup, which is just like the V lookup, but transposed. So we're working with the same data set. This time we want to look at the month, and then we're going to see how far we need to go down. And you can see I forgot to put false at the end, and I got the wrong answer. Next up is XLOOKUP, which is the better version of both VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP. So on these, we're going to be looking up, once again, same sort of data. We're going to be looking up their score in December for the given country. And if we can't find the country name, we're going to have it enter not found. So we want to look up country name, go on our results by country. And so now we don't have to pull in the full range, it's just the applicable columns. So we want column A and then the December column. And then if it's not found, then we want it to tell us not found. And then these can also work with a dynamic array, which means we can give it all these values and it can just give us the answers. So 20 answers, one formula. Now we want, for another bonus question, we want to use an XLOOKUP to determine what player had the highest score. So what we can do, we can use the XLOOKUP and just put in, a very high number of, 10 to the 6th power. And this one we want to get the player's name. So that's on our results by player tab. So we want to find a score that's like 1,000,000 and then give us the player who scored it. And then, so we don't have to worry about not making a match. But now for the type of match, instead of exact match, we want to do exact match or next smaller item. So we pick the number that we know is way too high. And so naturally it will find the highest number for us. And so once it finds the highest number, it will then return the player's name. Now we're going to go into one of my favorite functions, the indirect, and we're also going to be using named ranges. Name ranges are very helpful, especially for the Excel cases, the Excel battles, so you don't have to go back and reference other tabs. You can just, remember the names. And so for this one, we're going to be using an XLOOKUP, and we'll have an indirect to help us so we know what column to use. So we go over to our results by country. If I hit Control A, it will highlight all my data. I hit Control Shift F3. It gives us the options of how do we want to create names. And in this case, we really just want to use the top row on there. And so now I can do an XLOOKUP. And I want to find this country's name in the column, country name. And then I want it to return the January total score. And so I use an indirect to pull that column. And just once again, just sort of show you how an indirect works. Do indirect, want to do that column. And you can see it would pull the entire data set for me, just with that using the indirect. And you could, while I'm pointing to a cell, I could put it in quotes, type Jan in quotes, do the same thing. I can make a direct cell reference to say, what's this, 1428, so C157. And I would get that answer over there. Okay. Next up, we have, for the remainder of this case, it's going to be, something ifs. So we'll start with count ifs, which has multiple criteria, and, everything has to be true, and it'll give us a count of that. And so here, everything is going to be related to the results by player data. So same thing, I can go over here, hit Control A to get all my data, Control Shift F3, Control A, Control Shift F3. And then once again, top row for that. And so this one is just criteria and criteria range, and then the criteria. So, and we will count ifs. And then it's going to be, okay, we can use the indirect. So we can pull the score, and then the criteria will be criteria 1. And then for the second one, once again, it will be on this range, which is country. And then that has to be the answer. Okay, for level 6, we are doing the same thing, except this time we're using sum ifs. So I can almost copy over the same formula. Now I can change the count ifs to sum. And then in the first part, I need to tell it what to add up, which is the score. I just need the score, and the rest of my formula will work. For the last one, level 7, you have to do a couple things on this one. We're going to use max ifs, min ifs, or average ifs. They work pretty much the same as the sum ifs, but our data is not given to us in such an easy way as before. So here we can see we need to either the max score, average score, min score, and then at the end it tells us from what country that we're going to deal with. So we need to break this apart. There's a couple ways to do it. One way is with a flash fill on some of these. So I can give it a couple examples, and then I can just hit Control E, and it figures out the pattern and will take the appropriate word. So it realizes I was always taking the second word. For the other one, I don't want to do something like that for the last one because you have like South Africa here in the space. May not work as well. So here I want to use the text after function. And I think I can do these all at once. And then my delimiter is going to be the word from space. and it pulls all of them in. Okay. And now, because I could have three different formulas in there, I'm going to just pull my three options up here. I'm just going to number them 1, 2, and 3. And then what I want to do is I want to use a choose function, which you give it any number of options, and the first argument is which option do you want. So in order for this to work, we'll start everything with like an X lookup. So I want to figure out what formula I want, and it's going to be based on this. And I'm using absolutes to lock it down. And then once again, absolutes by hitting F4. So I know, okay, I want the first option on this. So I can wrap this in a choose function. And then, so the first argument is which one do I want? 1, 2, or 3. Then I have to put the value for 1, the value for 2, the value for 3. So the first one we would say would be max. That would be the max ifs. And everything is going to be based on score. And then the criteria range is going to be the country. And then the criteria is going to be this column over here. Okay, but if they chose number 2 and we wanted the average, just actually copy this 2 more times. You can change the max ifs to an average ifs. And then the last one to a min ifs. Okay. But in it is important to hear, we need to answer the question rounded to the nearest integer. It doesn't really matter if they're max or the min, but for the average, we could get some wrong answers. So we want to do a round function, wrap the whole thing in it, and then to 0 decimal places. Okay. And then that is it. So that is how to solve this puzzle. And the best score you can get is 1,150. Thank you. Good day.